Hey everyone, how are you doing? Good to see you. It's Monday night. So that is the physicist and philosopher, the physicist being Dr. Claudia Albers and the
Mhm.
philosopher being myself, Mr. R. Wayne Steiger. How you doing?
Yes. Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Claudia. How has your
That's
week
good.
been?
Yeah, it's been busy,
Yeah.
busy. There's always so much for me to write on. Sometimes I just don't know which one to write first. I saw you sent me some articles the other day, and I wanted to write something on it, but I just have not got to them yet.
I think that is the dilemma that all brilliant minds face is that there's never enough time.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to welcome everyone. Hello, Claudette. Hello, Miles. Let's see, Don, Brenda, Tim, Robert. How is everyone? Thank you for joining us. Brian, good to see you. By the way, Brian over at Milky Way Weekly will be doing a live podcast after this one. So, folks, go and check it out if you like on his. I think it's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about AI, and Suji will be over there. So, Miss Claudia,
Hmm.
lots of things happening in the world.
As usual, there was that 8.2 magnitude earthquake, very deep earthquake.
Very deep one. And,
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, when I think something that deep, I got the idea that it's almost 1,000 miles down. That's right there at the edge of the crust and the magma, isn't it? The mantle?
well, it's actually in the mantle, as far as I know, because the crust is not that thick. It's only about 100 kilometers thick,
Okay.
and this is over 500 kilometers in depth. So it's definitely in the mantle. So this is a very, very deep earthquake. And when you have earthquakes that deep, you are likely to get a
In
lot
the air.
more happening everywhere around the world as a result, because everything starts shifting. Obviously, there was a huge shift very, very deep inside the earth. And we
Yes.
keep seeing these types of earthquakes in this region of the world. So it's obviously something that's going on right there and under the crust in the mantle. Something's going on there.
Something is going on. And
Mm.
a little bit later, we'll actually get into some of the recent articles. And when I was looking at this afternoon, I was surprised to begin to see the areas in general where this is happening at.
Mm.
So, Claudia, what I did, I was on Forbidden Knowledge channel on the other Saturday night, and I was going through some of my old archives, and I thought it would be interesting that we might want to pull one up. And I
Mhm.
want to pull one up, particularly, Claudia, because I think sometimes we fail to understand that I think that there are those at the top, the elite, whatever, that do, in fact, warn us.
Yeah, the thing is, their religion forces them to
Hmm.
give us the truth, but they will turn around and deny it. That
Yes.
is their philosophy, their way of doing things. So that's why they are forced to actually give us the truth, but they will never admit it.
Isn't that the truth?
And they
A
hide
little
it.
pun.
And they hide it as well. So,
Well, this is
yes,
the one that
yeah, there we are.
has always fascinated me, and I
Uh-huh.
thank the Swiss for this because the Swiss, they are, I think that they may be actually real humanitarians. And I was talking to Chris on this about Saturday night. He had never seen it before. And I said, they've made disclosure to us. They've told us already, as we can see, we don't know what this system is right here. It's retrograded and it has a very long elliptical orbit way out here. But this is one of those funny ones that you look at it and you have to ask yourself, well, are they communicating a message to us? You know, it's one of those ones that I've always found fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely a possibility that we have nemesis coming in. That's what Terrell called the dark star.
Yeah, and as you can see, I wrote in
Yeah.
here, whose orbit is this?
Mm.
This is really very strange. And if you look at the inner planets, the way that they have these, it's just very, very telling. I
Yes.
I have looked at this and examined it, and again, I think that one of the ones that really got me was right here. Was what is this? This winged object. Do you see that one right there?
Yes.
I'll blow that really up so you can see. So something they're saying something is happening here. Now I've interpreted this in a number of different ways, that this is either, it looks to me like a comet coming in, crossing this orbital path, or
Yeah, I don't think this would be the moon, the sun's twin nemesis. This is probably something else. I mean, it goes into between Mercury and Venus. That's extremely close to the sun. We don't expect a star that still has the ability to interact gravitationally
but you see the
to
orbit
go
of it.
in that close. That would be extremely disruptive.
Well, again, I think it's subject to interpretation. I interpret this as an object, and its orbit, Claudia, is way out here. I mean, this, you're talking about this inner circle. You can
Yeah,
see.
but they have it going out to beyond Saturn. That's within Neptune's orbit. So this object would have a very fast period of rotation.
Well, again,
That's the problem.
I don't know what they're
And
telling us.
this object would have been in the solar system, would have come in probably from outside and then go into this kind of orbit.
Well,
It's a possibility. We have a lot of stellar cores that have been coming in, like I said, for nearly 200 years now. And it could be some of them are capable of then, after absorbing some energy, going into some sort of orbit.
well, I think what I was trying to communicate was that this is disclosure from a government
Yes.
that is clearly telling us you have multiple events taking place here. You have this object coming in here. It's a huge
Yes.
object.
Mm-hmm.
You look at it and it's hitting into the orbit of Mars, coming in from outside the solar system. Then you have this object, and I often found this very interesting. They're communicating that there is a network extending way out of our solar system.
Yes.
So, and then I always thought it was so ironic. Here's Mercury. You go back to the early space program. I don't know. It's one of those things. And then
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
this one has always been fascinating to me. I pulled it up from the archives back in 2014. Here was our
Oh
big
my
boy.
goodness.
I have, terabytes of files, but I thought, Dr. Albers, you would like this.
Well, that looks like an object eclipsing part of the sun, at least part of the sun's corona, because you can see the sun is almost firing these huge CMEs at it. When is this? Oh, 2014. Look, that's amazing image.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
looks like look at all the brightness from the sun. That's plasma from the sun that it's going out to in the direction of this object. You can see it's a spherical object because you can see the circular outline.
Well, look, it cuts the flare off. It cuts the flare off.
Exactly.
Claudia.
So
this is huge. This is bigger than our sun.
this is amazing. I've been looking for images of, in fact, I'm writing an article right now about the largest stellar cores in the solar system.
Well, this would be a candidate.
This one would fit in there right away.
So this, so our audience knows, this oscillation right here,
Yeah, the occulter.
the occulter, is
Yeah.
our sun. This is the actual length of the sun.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Albers, tell me from a physicist's point of view, how big of an object, because you see what I found very odd, and this is what really got me. The sun is casting a shadow on this. Well, I call it a shadow, but you can
I'm
see.
not sure if it's that can't be a shadow. This object is clearly in front of the sun.
Yes, I'm going to zoom it
So
out.
what that shows is some sort of interaction that is darker than the light.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, this is a chronograph. This is the LASCO C2 chronograph, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just can see from the size.
Yeah, and
so,
I'll zoom it back out.
Yeah, so first of all, chronographs detect visible light. Okay, so this is all visible light. The brightest light is the white colored light, and then there's the yellow. It's not as intense. The object looks darker red, so obviously not nearly as bright as the sun. So immediately we know there's an object there that is huge. It has to be very close to the sun. We know these stellar cores are always approaching the sun because they absorb energy from the sun. We know they do not interact gravitationally like normal objects. They're very weak gravitation. That's why they can come right up to the sun and not destroy the solar system, because these objects are huge. I just calculated these are actually cores of what was once a star.
Yeah,
that's what they are. They share their outer material, and you can often see that they are spherical and very dense, and what's left is basically the core of what was once a star. But they do expand in size. But today I calculated how large they would have been as stars before they shed all their material and just became the core of that star. And the core of a star is usually 20% of the whole size of the star, at least our sun is. And our planet's core is about that as well. So this means that this object, say it looks like it may be 7 times larger than the sun. Just,
yeah, I'd say that's a good estimate.
Yeah, that's a rough estimate. And I have seen another image in the HI1 images of an object that's also 7 times larger than the sun. So it may be the same one. But as stars, there would have been stars, they would have been twice as large as the size that they now have as a core. That's what I calculated today. I'll send you the article. I haven't finished.
Well,
so
I'll
this
send
would
this
have been
to
a star that was 14 times the size of the sun. It's now a dead star, depleted in energy star. It's an old star. You know that accepted theory tells you that any star that is over something like 6 to 8 times the size of the sun should have turned into a black hole.
Yes.
So we have objects here that are obviously old stars, aged stars. They never turn into black holes. That completely falsifies just about all the theory that astrophysicists have about the universe, because there's a black hole at the center of the galaxy. There are black holes everywhere, according to them. But you have an object here that should have turned into a black hole, and it didn't.
Yeah, and you would have thought that now the sun is reacting violently.
It is definitely.
It's not digging the company, I'm just saying.
Because, of course, you have an object that's low in energy. The sun is high in energy. What's going to happen? Energy is going to flow very fast out of the sun. There's going to be a huge gradient. It's like having a huge high pressure next to a huge low pressure. You're going to have a huge wind flowing across the gradient. So you're going to have huge amounts of energy flowing from the sun out towards the object. And this is what we see. There's a huge gravitational gradient, and there's always an electrical gradient associated. That's why there's always huge electrical effects between the two objects.
Well, this is a doozy, isn't it?
This is an amazing image. Wow.
I'll send this one too. Good. I'll send this one to you.
Yeah,
Now,
thanks.
this is another famous, back in 2014, folks, something was going on.
Oh, yes.
I think there was a galactic battle taking place.
I think there were a lot of very large stellar cores coming in, arriving at the sun for the first time. I think that's what happened. I think some of the spacecraft stopped functioning, or at least they didn't show us images for a while. I think it was the core 2. I've written about that in some of my older objects. It just, at least they said it wasn't working for a while.
Well, this is one of the most anomalous
Oh,
frames I have
yes.
caught on LASCO C3. To this date, I do not know what's going on here. The
Yeah.
camera was obviously, Claudia, catching something.
Oh, definitely. First of all, we have a type of plasma ejection on the left side. Okay, you can see, I've seen these in the core 2 images. It's just an object that does some kind of ejection of material. We've seen these in the HR images. They sometimes have jet ejections. So this is actually due to an object that most likely has been here for quite a while, has gained a lot of energy from the sun, is now acting more like a star again. So rejuvenated, that's what I used to call it. Now these, the other ones, as you can see, looks like crescents.
Yeah.
And that to me would be the part of the object that we are seeing that has managed to regain energy enough to emit light. They most likely, the rest of the object is just not seen, but they're most likely spherical objects there.
So what I want to,
in a row.
so what fascinates me on this picture is this object is how it's behind.
Yeah. So what I think that is 2 of them, one behind the other.
Yeah.
And so the only reason all stellar cores are spherical, except for one that I found that has a piece missing out of it. But they are very likely to be spherical. What we have there is we're only seeing part of that spherical object, the part that's now emitting light. That's the crescent part. Now, that one, that rectangular piece there, that's most likely some kind of cloud that's quite dense. There may be objects inside it. There's some kind of interaction and some kind of explosion, and it started in. We don't know how long these objects have these explosions, but they sometimes look like nova type of interaction, nova ejections. And we know that white dwarfs have nova type of ejections, and these objects seem to have them as well. Again, I wrote about that way back, showing that these objects have these interactions and ejections and some characteristics that are common with white dwarfs.
Well, what fascinates me about this, and I just put all the arrows here, is because I've had this for years and I've measured this. This is really strange because it can't be an anomalous artifacting of the lens, because what we have here is a very distinct eclipse you can see taking place here. And each one of these objects, Claudia, are at a different perihelion and angle to the one next to it.
Yeah, but that is, I believe, these objects are actually emitting light. They're not reflecting light. They are, if you look at the planets in these images, they usually look larger than they
yeah, but they're not this big.
But you would never see a crescent on them. And that is because they either in front of the sun or behind the sun, and all we see is a bright blob of light. So these objects, first of all, they are huge. As you can see,
they're huge.
They are comparable in size to the sun itself.
That's my point. Thank you. It's they're huge.
They are huge. Yeah.
I mean, look at this is what we're talking about, folks. It's the perimeter of this. And the smallest one down here would probably be about maybe a little bit less, but this one is big.
Yeah, that one is at the one in front would be at least twice the size of the sun.
Well, these are some of the more curious ones, Dr. Albers, that I've looked at.
Amazing, yeah. Amazing.
And yeah, when you just see this, you go, well, you know, what is this? I mean, here, I swear that this is a spear, but I could be wrong.
Well, it could be an object.
You see what I'm talking
I've seen that
about?
sort of thing before as well. It could be an object that has a trail behind it. Sometimes I see that. So it would be a spherical object immersed in the cloud of material that it's actually drawing from the sun. And then there are these electrical interactions which may lead to that bright light emission that we see there.
Well, I'm going to do it one more time just to show. Wait a minute, excuse me.
It does seem to be.
I'm talking about the stripes here, Claudia.
Oh, that.
Look at the stripes. They're very, and I'll take the annotations off.
Yeah.
They're there.
Yes.
Now, I don't know. It could, you know, I don't know what it was. I mean,
I'm not sure what that is. It does have a circular outline on the top.
Yeah, it does here.
So that would indicate a spherical object there. It could be that is more than one. They sometimes cluster these objects.
Well, I'll send this to you, and I'd love to get your
interesting.
analysis on this. It's one of those ones that, you know,
it's baffling.
That's exactly the word I used. It's like, well, okay. So this is one that I took, as you can see, here in Colorado. This is my backyard. And this was one of the oddest phenomena.
My goodness.
Yeah. And people say, oh, by the way, this is from my backyard using my video camera. Guess what that is, Claudia?
What is that?
It's the ISS.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, explain to me how, in the middle of the day, here's the freaking sun over here, excuse me, how am I catching the ISS? And I'll zoom it up for you.
Well, obviously, it must be illuminated.
Yeah, you know, it kind of sometimes, you know, it goes over Denver quite often because we're in the footprint. But this one baffled me because technically, Claudia, I should not be able to even see it.
No, that's very strange. That's why I was thinking, are you sure it's the ISS?
Oh, it's the ISS. Yeah. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Now, if
very strange.
I just caught one of the biggest freaking UFOs overhead.
The thing is, as far as I know, most of the time, the sun's atmosphere is not illuminated by the sun at all. It's illuminated by the sun simulating devices.
And you can see the date. It was, you know, July 30th.
I mean, there is a sun simulator in orbit. It may be close to the ISS, and maybe that one is illuminating it. But
well, I don't know. It may not be the ISS. It may, in fact, be a UFO.
It's possible. You know, I've just written an article about those pyramid-shaped clouds.
Yeah, we're going to pull that up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I looked at this and I said, well, it definitely has the contour shape of the ISS. But then again, it's obviously something that didn't belong up there. I mean, we may.
Yeah.
So there you are. Isn't that odd?
It's very odd.
This one here.
Oh my goodness. What is that?
I captured this one and I swear that this was an incomer.
Yeah, that's stellar core coming in. Look at it. It's not a meteor. A meteor would be on fire.
Yep.
You see, it looks like a cloud. That's exactly what stellar cores do in the atmosphere. First of all, a cloud forms around them because they absorb energy. So the water vapor molecules lose energy, and when they lose energy, they condense into water, liquid water. So you get droplets of water, and then you get the cloud formation. This is why the chemtrails are so good at covering these objects up. Because these objects, as they come in, they look like this. They cloud, but then they start emitting light because
And you can see where this thing came in. I mean, it's very clear. Yeah.
So this is a stellar core debris piece coming in. That's what it is. And there's more and more of it coming in all the time, I think. I've written another article on that today.
So this, when I took this picture, what fascinated me was that I've never seen turquoise green clouds.
That's because they're not natural to our planet.
I didn't think so either. I went, well, what the heck is going on here? And
this is the luminescent clouds that the stellar core debris creates in our atmosphere. It started in 1850 when noctilucent clouds were observed for the first time. It's not natural. There's no natural mechanism in our planet that produces that kind of thing. It is only stellar core matter coming into our, oh my goodness, there's another one.
This is my theory. I said on Saturday night on Chris's channel, this is what I believe has been a technology they started testing back in 2014 and 2015. I think they've perfected this, Claudia. Mm-hmm. We saw the earliers. Here's one. This is a campground in Georgia. Just to let everyone see, you know, if you saw that, look at this, Claudia.
That's a plasma beam.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is a plasma weapon. Look at that, Claudia. This is why when I saw this, I went, holy, yeah, look at that.
This could be very dangerous for anybody that goes underneath that beam.
So I pulled this one up. This is the destruction in China that everyone thought was a chemical explosion. This was captured. This is another plasma weapon.
Yeah. I thought that was strange that all those Chinese factories were going up in smoke. I also thought it was an attack.
You know what? I would agree. I'm telling you, you know, there are some out there that say that we're in a war right now.
Yeah.
Look at that. Now, we saw the after pictures of this, the crater that this thing left, but what got me was the intensity of the fires.
Yeah, but it's not a war like we would think a war is between nations. This is a manipulation war. In other words, this is how the powers that be force nations to go along with them and do what they want.
Yes, I'd agree.
You know, if they don't do what they want, we will start destroying your factory.
Yeah, and your people. Oh, Claudia, there was one that I wanted to show you. I got out of this too quick, so let me go back, because this one I think you're going to be fascinated by as well. Look at those clouds.
Wow. Those are amazing. Those are definitely artificial.
Look at that.
They're so regular.
And the patterns are so
that shows a wave pattern.
Yeah.
They superimposing some kind of wave on this. It could be a sound wave, it could be sonic, or it could be electromagnetic, but definitely huge wavelengths.
I get the impression frequencies.
And what I meant, yes, frequency or wavelength. It's definitely a wave.
Yeah.
That's creating this regular shape. This is amazing,
isn't it?
But this is how artificial our atmosphere has become because of all the devices and artificial devices they are using in it.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is some of the stuff in my archive, and thought you might found it interesting.
Yeah, the colors were interesting because the colors, you saw some blue and pink, and that's usually associated with stellar core matter anyway.
Well, I brought those up because I believe it validates your theory to a great degree with these anomalous phenomenon happening here.
Definitely.
So we have part 2 now, folks. Part 2, Dr. Albers, is this. Let me get it pulled up. And we are seeing some very, very strange things happening with our planet. We're talking about the giant fissures that are opening up. And they have been opening up quite regularly this year. Claudia, what's going on here?
Well, what happens is as stellar core matter interacts with the Earth, it absorbs energy. When it absorbs energy, the Earth's gravitational energy drops. And what happens is the Earth starts expanding. Just a little bit of expansion leads to these fissures opening up. And these have been appearing all over the world for years. And of course, as more and more stellar core matter comes in, the Earth will expand more and more, and it will fissure more and more. This is why this is happening overnight. The Earth just splits open because it's expanding.
Well, what they're finding all over the world as well, this is in France, and the people are freaking out, is their rivers are disappearing.
Yeah, well, when the fissures open up, of course, fissures open all the way down, and it may end up in some huge cavern underneath the ground. That's why the rivers will then flow into the ground rather than continue to flow on the surface.
Here, right next door to me, up to the northwest, Yellowstone.
Yellowstone is a big problem. I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I'm getting a little, it's, I just pulled up. Now, this one here I thought was interesting. The Lombok earthquake that hit Indonesia raised the ground 10 inches, Claudia. And this wasn't the big one that hit the other day.
Wow. Yeah, Indonesia is very, very active. That area.
This is the other area we've seen, the volcano up in this area. I'm just pulling all these up because I wanted people to see. This is the one in Saudi Arabia that they say goes right down to hell.
Okay. Yeah, I had a picture
That's
of
what
that.
they say. But this validates. Now, I pulled this one up because this is a list of everything that has happened this year, Claudia. So we get the first one in Kenya. You've done a whole, we in fact went over that.
Yes.
Uganda. The East African Rift.
Yeah, I wrote
the
about
Great
them.
Rift in Kenya. So these are two different ones, correct? You have the East African Rift and then the Great Rift Valley.
I think they are connected. Eventually, they will all.
Oh, I think they're all connected. It's
the Rift Valley that will eventually split the east part of Africa from the rest of Africa, of the African continent.
I think you're going to have another Madagascar out there. By the way, all you folks in Washington, you know what's going up there at Rattlesnake Ridge. The mountain has split in two.
Wow.
And at some point in time, they know that this is going to be coming down. Here's another one in Manipur, Pakistan, Arizona, Cape Town, South Africa, Pennsylvania. I think this is in Britain's Jurassic Coast.
Oh my goodness.
This is in Colombia. This is in Paraguay. This is in California. This is in Wyoming. This is in Sonora, New Mexico, excuse me.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
This is Eastern Romania.
Wow.
I can go on for page after page, Claudia.
Oh my goodness. I think I must write an article on this again because I hadn't even noticed there were so many. I knew this had been happening for years, but this is unbelievable.
It is actually very unbelievable how quickly, folks, Claudia, the freaking planet is changing right before our eyes.
Yeah, and it's going to accelerate, Wayne. I expect it to keep on accelerating. That's the thing. This is the problem with the Planet X system we have here. It's not like we have an object that comes in, goes out, and we start over. It's not like that. This system is here to stay. There's no stopping this. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
I mean, yes, and that I don't think we're comprehending, all of us, the magnitude of what you're saying. I mean, I theorize that the planet is expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's because that there is an object out there. Now, I wanted to show this. This is from Alabama. All you folks, because I know I have a lot of people that listen in Alabama. You know what happened here on the 17th. 40 times brighter than the full moon. We're seeing more and more fireballs coming in. So what do you think is going on, Claudia? And then I think we can get to your paper. And but
it's the debris field. The stellar cores came in. They started coming in nearly 200 years ago. They share their outer layer, so they create a huge amount of debris in a solar system. They come in different sizes. So some of them are huge. As we saw, there was one there that was 7 times the size of the sun.
The sun, yeah.
That object shared all its upper layers of material. Well, not all of it inside the solar system. Probably only the last few bits of material. But still, that lots of them have come in 200 years. And they've shared a lot of debris. Some of this debris material may be as large as the Earth. Some will be dust-sized. The ones that gain energy first are the smaller ones. So the dust came in first. It was attracted to the Earth first because it gained enough energy to respond to gravity. And after that, we will get the next size pieces, the small pieces. But they will get larger and larger and larger. We get larger and larger pieces coming in. That's why we're going to get meteors and larger meteors coming in.
I heard.
Until eventually we may get an asteroid type impact from these objects.
And listen, I read this weekend that there is a theory out there with astronomers of the pile-up theory, that this object coming in is basically pushing in front of it a huge condensed debris field. And I'm keep on thinking, we're obviously seeing the effects now. The Earth is responding to something. And I'm wondering, are we going to see a traffic jam coming in here? I mean, the near Earth objects, you can go to the webpage, they're adding to it every day. Over the weekend, they added 6 new ones they found.
That's right.
And these guys are supposed to be here in literally weeks. And I'm going, there just seems to be more and more of this, Claudia. And then I'm thinking on the stellar cores. I mean, if you have an object of enough mass, wouldn't it pull or push debris in front of it? Or would it plow it?
Well, usually the debris follows it, but the stellar cores will have debris around them. But what actually happens is the debris is shed in the sun's corona and it just floats around. It doesn't have enough energy, at least initially, to even be attracted towards the sun. It just floats in space. But there's lots of it deep within the sun's corona. But when the sun has a CME, usually in response to one of these objects being close to it, you can see lots of this debris flying away from the sun with the CME. So what happens is a CME will push a lot of this material out into the outer edges of the solar system. So some of it will get to the Earth. That's how a lot of it is getting here. And the smaller the objects, the less their mass, so the further they'll be pushed away. I think that's how the stellar cores that are getting to the Earth are getting here. There will be the smaller ones.
Okay.
The moon-sized ones, the small planet-sized ones. These will be getting to the Earth and the stellar core debris. And that's what's coming into our atmosphere.
Well, so I thought that would be a good segue into your most recent paper here, and I found this one fascinating. The triangle clouds. When did that start happening?
Well, lots of people have left comments saying they've been photographing these objects, these type of clouds in the sky for a while now. This was new to me. I've never seen this before. So I found it on the Planet X Facebook page. Actually, I think Scott or someone sent it to Scott, and he put this together, these two images.
Okay.
And I started examining them, and I said, well, first of all, there's no way we can have a cloud that retains that triangular shape. You actually have to have a solid object inside the cloud for it to retain that shape or even be in that shape, because clouds are not solid objects. So they cannot be in such a solid object kind of shape. So first of all, there has to be a solid object in there. So, and as you can see, the one on the left, you can actually see what looks like the side of it. So it's actually not even a triangle. It's a pyramid. It's three-dimensional. So the one on the right-hand side is most likely the same thing, a three-dimensional object covered in clouds. Now, how is that possible? How can we have a three-dimensional object in the atmosphere covered in clouds? Well, as it turns out, a stealth technology, and I have explained it before how stealth technology works, it's actually comes from having a current on the outer shell of an aircraft, because I've discovered that a current of electrons absorbs photons.
Okay.
And I deduced that from the work done by this Russian material scientist that discovered that if you have a superconducting disk, that if you put any object above the disk, it loses mass. In other words, it shields against gravity. And the only way it can shield against gravity, and because it's superconducting, is because there must be an extra potential in it that accelerates electrons. So an extra electrical potential. And that means that an electrical potential will lead to electrons losing energy or just simply absorbing energy because the capacity for energy has increased. So this is what I illustrated here. This actually comes from that article that I wrote on this material science. So that was article 280 where I explained this. So it means that when electrons are accelerated due to being in a potential difference, they actually generate an anti-gravitational field or a gravitational vacuum. And that means that energy flows in and is absorbed by these electrons. So when you put a current across the outer shell of an aircraft, if you make the current, I don't know, I would have to do some experiments to figure out what it is. They obviously have done it all.
Mm-hmm.
It absorbs the radar photons. So the radar photons do not get reflected, go back to the radar station, and basically then the radar station would calculate where the aircraft was. They don't go back, they are absorbed. So it's as if there's no object there.
Outstanding work here, Claudia. I really like how you visualized and you put it in there into our modern aircraft when we see low pressures, high pressures being generated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because just like the stellar cores that absorb material, absorb energy, and then you get the cloud condensing around the material, the aircraft will do the same thing because there's a current moving across it, and that causes energy to be absorbed by the outer shell of the aircraft. You will get cloud condensing on that outer shell as well. So then what you have is not just stealth capability where the radar signals are absorbed. You also get cloaking with a cloud capability. In other words, a cloud forms on the object because there is a current of electrons flowing across it.
Yep. I mean, this is a perfect example, is exactly how you can begin to think. Whatever the technology they are using is, you can see the cloud formation, the water, the hydrogen beginning in particles coming through there. This is fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the stellar course actually is what showed us how these things actually work. So what we actually have here is devices. They are associated with the sun simulated that forms here. First of all, that's not the sun because it's white. It's even quite low to the horizon, but it's white. And it's very close to the tip of this pyramid. And here on the right-hand side, you can actually see shadow light separations that are divergent and seem to come from the very tip of the pyramid. So obviously this pyramid or this object that's cloaked in clouds is simulating the sun in our atmosphere. So this is actually a sun simulation device, this pyramid.
This is just the most bizarre. When you look at the close edges of this, it's exactly what you would expect on something hiding in here.
Exactly.
Wow. And this one over here, I'm curious as to what Scott's opinion is of this. Is this merely a...
Yes, I'm not sure that could be an object in the sky, because it does not seem to be a lens
flare. No.
A lens flare. I did notice that. I decided to leave it in this case because I wasn't sure what it was, but it does look like there is an object there. As you can see, the sun is producing a huge amount of glare. But that object is quite well defined.
Very well defined.
Yeah.
So when you look at something like this, and it's so difficult to sometimes get perspective because of spatial orientation, distance, but this is one big son of a gun. That's a big, 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 it's a big cloud to begin with. I mean,
yes, it is. And don't forget, it's a solid object. So
yeah.
they must be using anti-gravity drives or something like that. Of course, they've had the technology for years. They have never wanted us to know about it, but they've had it for years. They have the secret space program. There's lots of information on that. The Nazis were already developing the technology.
Oh, yeah.
So
this
we
is
know the
just
technology exists.
Yes, this is just fascinating when we begin to see this kind of phenomenon everywhere. And I think it was over at Secure Team with Tyler over in his that, you know, and you go back and look in his archives, but there was a report that there was a large fleet. These are huge, few ships, objects, whatever you want to call them, that they have actually recorded around the moon and coming in from outside our orbit. Claudia, what do you think? Do you think that there's actually intelligent life behind this? Do you think that it's ours, or is
it could be ours, but the technology is not ours. The technology was reverse engineered in the 1940s and 1950s from alien technology. So obviously the aliens are behind it all.
Claudia, I just noticed something. You know, I spent nearly 20 years in the video post-production industry, and it just caught my eye. And I want to blow this up so I'm not thinking that I'm seeing something here. No, it's what I thought. This is a strange object, Claudia, because even if the cloud was here, it should be oscillating out here on the refraction of the water. This is weird. I don't know what we're looking at, but that's some very strange technology.
It is very strange.
And look at the shadow, Claudia, it's casting out here. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that there's a darkness there.
Yeah, look at this. And it would naturally, let me go ahead and get the annotation on.
It's
so
very...
Here's our shadow.
That's supposed to be ocean. It doesn't look like ocean there.
Now, if I do this correctly...
You know what I think that is? That may be a holographic projection of the horizon. Because we shouldn't be having things like that. The shadow of that object should be further closer to the camera, not right on the horizon, because this object's obviously closer than the horizon can be.
Yes.
This is
there.
very strange.
It's there.
Very, very strange.
All right. So this would be my analysis. This is a huge object, Claudia. Huge.
Yeah, it's very. I nowadays I look at the sky and I sometimes think I'm looking at a holographic projection of at least the major part of the sky. It does not look real at all.
This is bizarre. I'd like to do some more analysis on this one, because
yes, I know. I mean, when I first looked at it, I decided I'm going to focus on the object itself.
Yeah. This is amazing. I mean, this. Well,
yeah. Well, why does the horizon look dark like that? Like there's a line, like there's land beyond the ocean.
It tells me that it's casting a big shadow.
Yeah, but how can the object cast a shadow at the edge of the horizon? You see, it doesn't make any sense.
You know what I need?
That's why I think it's a holographic projection. And when they do holographic projections, they often don't get it right.
Well, that one was weird. I need to get my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because I think that was the Vogon. And I want to make sure that there's no freaking superhighway coming through Earth here. So,
well, there may actually be, to tell you the truth, maybe several.
Well, now that's really putting the old positive twist on it. Oh, mercy, mercy, mercy.
Yeah. We seem to be a very popular planet with a lot of aliens.
It seems to have that kind of a sign out there, this galactic neon sign saying, hey, come check us out.
Yeah.
But when I see pictures like that, and with my background, I could begin, you look for, not the obvious. You try to look for those telltale signs, and that one is very telling, Claudia. It's very telling.
There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot.
I think I should write another article on it.
I think you should, and go and look at that, and you can do the measurements on that. I mean, I'll help you with it, because what I'm seeing there is that it would do exactly what it would do if there was let's just say hypothetical, that there was an object embedded in that. Then you have the sun coming down. What it's going to do is, the sun will go straightly down where the object is obscuring the light.
Yes, but don't forget, this thing is producing its own sunlight.
Well, now there is that.
It's right above it.
Yeah.
So the shadow would be right underneath the object. And the object doesn't look like it's so far that it's right on the horizon.
No, that's just it. I mean,
the thing is, the shadow should be on the ocean itself, and it's not there.
It's not there. It's not there. It's on the very tip. See, that's what's...
That it doesn't make any sense. That's why I think the whole horizon that we're seeing behind the object may be a holographic projection.
It's amazing when we start talking about this type of technology. The only way that I can logically see this is that there has to be a grid system. When we used to do concerts, you put up the light system. Light systems are all grids, and that's how you get the effects.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the same principle, I would think, on any type of projection system.
That's right. They have to have a grid. They always putting in new design simulators in, but it has to be a grid that actually moves across the surface of the Earth. But so there's a grid for each latitude, with some kind of separation across it, so that one does not see the other. But when we had those 3 hours of darkness in Russia, remember in the beginning, there was still a little bit of light.
Mm-hmm.
That's most likely due to the simulator that's in the next quadrant.
Yeah.
But as it moved away, and there was no simulator in this quadrant where we were, it went completely dark. Why? Because the sun was not there. Obviously, the sun had gone dark, and then eventually, probably the simulator got turned on, or they moved in another one into that grid. But the fact that we had 3 hours of darkness, of course, that means, what are the chances that we got those 3 hours of darkness just as the sun went dark for 3 hours? Very small. So what is likely is that the sun is turning off for much longer than 3 hours each day.
That's a frightening prospect.
It may even be out most of the time now. You never know what they are doing to hide what is actually going on with the sun. But the fact that we need so many simulators and that grid pattern which you talked about, and I've written articles about this, how I said there must be a grid pattern. They must move at about 1,000 kilometers per hour to simulate the motion of the sun across the surface of the Earth.
Well, and so you were talking, I'm recalling images from ISS that have shown the sun hitting the Earth, and it's very much exactly like that. You can actually see the main spotlight, but then again, the light is diffused over the planet.
Yeah, that's right. So it has to be very close to the planet. It's not the real sun.
Yeah. Again, if that was a UFO I caught earlier in the program, then fine, so be it. But if it was the ISS, it also kind of makes you think, well, how far is 250 miles up in the atmosphere then?
Yeah, I don't even understand how we seem to be seeing the bottom of the ISS.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible when the sun is on the side of it?
Don't ask me.
You know why? Because it's being illuminated from the bottom. They're illuminating the atmosphere upwards sometimes.
Well, now there you go. You're going to get them all, but that's a fact. You shouldn't be able to see that.
No.
It's and when I see it go over at night, I track it. I have a program that alerts me to when it's passing over, and I have seen that craft, in the middle of the night, and I've seen it have some very strange lighting effects.
Mm.
I saw it one night, Claudia. I would testify to this, that it had an aurora around it. So, we've caught them doing weird experiments up there, with light brighter than the sun. So I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah, the thing is they have learned how to control plasma and how to ionize gases so they turn into plasma. So obviously the fact that they have plasma weapons shows that they have gained good control of plasma.
We ought to do a show on plasma. It's the fourth state of matter. And I think that a lot of people, and even myself, probably have some misconceptions of what plasma and the properties of plasma actually are.
Yeah, well, not everybody actually fully understands, I don't think, but basically what it is ionized atoms. So atoms that have been stripped of their electrons, usually between a high potential difference, and then the ionized atoms will move in one direction, the electrons in the other, and that creates a current across. But plasma, that's what it is. It's basically ions and electrons moving about.
Let's do a show on that.
Okay. We can do that.
Well, our hour is come and gone.
Oh my, it goes so fast.
It does go by fast. And we've just had a terrific crowd in here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Albers, your classroom is getting bigger.
That's wonderful.
Queen of Courts, by the way, going to have her on. So this woman her name is Karen. So we're just going to have to coordinate the time. But yeah, I think this is something I'd like to learn and to be taught. And again, the classroom is growing.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Way. Yeah.
And I didn't say hello to the MFA members. I think Scott is broadcasting this to them as well. So
well, hello, welcome.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Scott. That's
Yeah.
really cool, buddy. Way to go. All right.
We get even more views.
Well, this one was an exciting show. I really, well, all of them are good, but this one I really like because
It was very exciting. I
something's going
love
on.
those images you showed right at the beginning, Wayne. Those were wonderful.
I will send
You
those
must
to
do
you.
more of those.
Okay. I'll go deep into the vaults, I
It
gotta.
just gives me so much more to write. I don't even know where to start anymore. Now it's getting worse.
Oh yeah, now I'm just going to add on to the pile. Well, good folks, thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week. Miss Claudia, is there anything you'd like to say before we go? Now, make sure to go over to Dr. Albers' channel, subscribe, because she does put out programs during the week.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, you
I'm
do.
always writing and trying to make videos. I actually have 2 articles that I need to make videos on now. Sometimes I just don't get the time to make the videos.
We know what I like about your videos. They are truly a tutorial. It's really teaching folks. I mean, you know that Dr. Albers is a teacher just by the way that she presents.
Yes, thank you. I am by nature a teacher. I love to teach, and
it shows.
thank
It
you.
shows. So
And yeah,
all you free thinkers, thank you. And all the carbon-based life forms, we
yes.
welcome you as well. So, and if you're not of the carbon-based life form, please send us an email. We'd love to interview you. Oh, buddy, it's always fun. Just a delight to be with you. Thank you for, well, honoring us with such brilliant of mind. I'll tell you.
Thank you.
This is how.
Thank you for putting such a wonderful show together, Wayne, with all those pictures and lovely. You're just so good at it.
That's my job as executive producer. I don't want to get fired.
Of course not.
Oh, well, Dr. Albers, be good. Have a great week, Claudia. Everyone, have a great week. Tomorrow night, I will be a special guest over on the Artists First Network, 10 o'clock Eastern. Just tune in over there. We're going to have some very interesting conversations. I believe we're actually going to have a couple, I think, that have actually done active interviews of contactees. And adoptees. Yeah, so this should be, and I'll let you know how that goes.
Okay.
All right, well, give my best to Scott. And everyone, thank you for coming in. We appreciate you all. You're the ones that make it worthwhile, and we thank you for that. So signing off for Dr. Albers, make sure to check her YouTube channel. This is R. Wayne Steiger. We'll see you next week here on the Physicist and Philosopher Hour.
Yes.
All right, folks. Bye-bye.